The wind screamed across the cliffs of Normandy, rattling every steel door and shaking every window pane of the concrete bunker at Pointe du Hoc. Major Ernst Weber, officer of the German 352nd Infantry Division, stood alone at the narrow slit that looked out over the black, angry sea. For months, command told him the same message. The Allied invasion will strike at Calais, not here. But Major Weber trusted his instincts more than orders. And tonight, something felt wrong. Build up. The storm was brutal. Rain lashed the earth. Waves crashed against rocks with the force of cannonballs. Inside the bunker, soldiers tried to sleep. Exhausted boys playing cards, smoking cheap cigarettes, writing letters home and dreaming of peace. But Weber didn't sleep. He felt a weight, something heavy pressing against his heart. A voice, silent yet deafening, telling him, "Watch the sea." Minutes ticked past midnight. 12:20 a.m., 12:35, 12:47. Nothing. Then at 00:50, Weber froze. Out on the horizon, past the black waves, past the crack of thunder, a faint glimmer flickered. A single light, then another, then 100 more. He narrowed his eyes. The realization. The dots multiplied. Hundreds, thousands. The darkness beyond the channel lit with tiny sparks, lines of motion, shapes moving fast, far too organized to be fishermen or patrol boats. Weber's breath hitched. His voice escaped as a whisper. "It's them." He lunged for the field telephone. "Headquarters, this is Major Weber, enemy fleet approaching Normandy." A sleepy board operator answered. "Impossible. Intelligence confirms Calais. Normandy is quiet." Weber slammed his fist against the table. "Look at the water. The invasion is here." Still, they didn't believe him. Paratroopers in the night. Just seconds later, the sky ripped open. Engine roar thundered overhead. Suddenly, the clouds burst with silken shapes. Paratroopers, hundreds. They dropped like shadows from the heavens, falling into farmland, orchards, and behind the German lines. Searchlights flicked on, alarms screamed, and tracer fire clawed at the sky. Weber sprinted outside. The fields glowed with burning flares. "They are behind us! They are everywhere!" And then, the sea lit up all at once. The Armada. What Weber saw next seized his soul. From horizon to horizon, the entire channel was jammed with ships, warships, battleships, floating fortresses, and thousands of landing craft powering straight toward the sand. It was the largest armada in human history. Guns thundered so loud they shook the bunker foundations. Weber didn't need Berlin to confirm anything. He was the first German officer to witness D-Day. The battle begins at 06:30. Ships opened fire. Walls of water erupted. Sand flew sky high. Concrete shattered. Machine guns screamed from pillboxes. Mortars thumped. Radio channels howled with panic. Weber ran position to position, dragging wounded soldiers, shouting orders, keeping men from breaking. He wasn't fighting to win. He knew the wave was unstoppable. He was fighting to keep his men alive, even 10 minutes longer. Bodies fell. Smoke suffocated the air. The beaches turned red. And still, the Allies came, row after row after row. A moment of understanding. By mid-morning, Weber climbed the bunker roof, breath burning in his lungs. He stared across Omaha Beach. He expected to see death and confusion among the invaders. Instead, he saw a force that could not be stopped. American soldiers pushing forward, British tanks climbing the beach, Canadian infantry storming strongpoints, engineers clearing mines with their bare hands. They came not like men, but like destiny. The tide of history was walking up the shore. Surrender. By evening, Weber had nothing left to command. Ammunition gone. Men scattered, wounded, or dead. The German line had been broken. He walked onto the rubble-strewn beach, uniform torn, blood on his hands, not his own. A young American lieutenant aimed his rifle, barely 20 years old. Weber removed his pistol, placed it on the ground, and raised his hands. "It is over," Weber said gently. "It was always coming." The lieutenant nodded, not with triumph, but with respect. War was ending for Weber, but for the world, a new chapter had begun. Ending Major Ernst Weber had been the first German officer to see D-Day. He sounded the alarm. He fought with honor. But he also knew, deep down, that Normandy was the moment Germany would lose the war. Years later, he would write, "I watched history arrive across the water. We were told to guard the beaches, but no man can guard against a tide." Major Ernst Weber had spent months staring across the gray waters of the English Channel. He didn't trust silence, especially not the heavy kind that hung over the Normandy coastline on the night of June 5, 1944. Weber was a professional soldier, disciplined, loyal, and meticulous. Yet even he felt the weight of war pressing on his ribs like a stone. The beaches below him, Utah, Omaha, Gold, seemed like endless sand he was ordered to guard, but no one expected much. The High Command insisted, "The invasion will come at Calais." Weber wasn't so sure. That night, storms pounded the cliffs. Rain smeared the bunker's windows. Wind clawed at the roof like wolves. His younger soldiers relaxed, played cards, smoked, dozed off. But Weber watched the sea. At C-050, something flickered on the horizon. Not lightnings, not stars. Tiny pinpoints, hundreds of them. He blinked, looked again. Then he realized. Ships. Warships. Thousands. His breath froze. His hands trembled as he reached for the field telephone. "Headquarters, this is Major Weber. The invasion is here." Static. A sleepy voice replied, "Impossible. Intelligence confirms Calais." Weber cut him off. "Look out your window. They are coming to Normandy." The sea was now alive, dark shadows turning into the largest armada the world would ever see. Destroyers, battleships, landing craft, gun flashes lighting the water like lightning from hell. Suddenly, paratroopers dropped behind them like ghosts falling from the clouds. The sky ripped open with engines and gunfire. 40,000 boots landed in fields that should have been quiet. Weber's heart pounded. He had been the first officer to see it, first to scream the warning, but it was too late. Chaos exploded along the coast. Bunkers shook under naval bombardment. Concrete shattered. The beach defenses burned. Weber ran from post to post, shouting orders, dragging wounded men to cover, firing until his rifle was empty. He wasn't fighting for victory anymore, only for survival. Hours later, when the smoke thinned and the tide ran red, Weber climbed the bunker steps again. He saw a sight that stole his breath. Miles of beaches crowded with Allied soldiers, tanks rolling ashore, flags rising in the wind, and he whispered to himself, "This is the day the war turned." Not in anger, not in fear, but in a strange, hollow understanding. He had been the first to see D-Day, the massive wave no one could stop. By nightfall, Weber surrendered. He handed over his pistol to a young American lieutenant, barely older than his own son. The lieutenant nodded respectfully. Weber looked back at the sea, no longer empty, no longer his to guard. "It was always coming," he said quietly. "We just pretended it wouldn't."